cold afternoon in February of 1957, a college student named George Blevins was walking through a wooded area outside Philadelphia. Blevins was actually doing something he probably should not have been doing. He was checking illegal muskrat traps he had secretly set up in the brush. But suddenly something caught his eye. Sitting just off the dirt road was a cardboard box. At first, it did not seem unusual. Dumping trash along rural roads was not uncommon. But something about it felt wrong. Blevins stepped closer. Inside the box was the body of a small boy. The child appeared to be around 4 years old. He was naked, bruised, and clearly the victim of severe abuse. Blevins panicked. Because he was worried he might get in trouble for the traps, he did something that would haunt him later. He left the scene without telling anyone. A few days later, another man spotted the same box. This time, police were called, and within hours, one of the most disturbing cases in American history had begun. The boy had been placed inside a cardboard box that originally held a baby bassinet. Investigators found the box near Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia. The child had numerous injuries, including bruises, scars, and signs of malnutrition. But there was one particularly strange detail. His hair had been freshly cut, but not professionally. It looked like someone had roughly chopped it off shortly before his death. Detectives believed whoever killed him may have tried to change his appearance. But the most disturbing part of the case came next. No one knew who he was. Police launched one of the largest investigations Philadelphia had ever seen. They distributed hundreds of thousands of flyers. The boy's image appeared on billboards across the city. Newspapers printed his photo again and again. Police visited orphanages, schools, hospitals, and foster homes. They checked missing child reports across multiple states, but no one came forward. No parents, no relatives, no neighbors, no teachers, nothing. It was as if the child had never existed. Eventually, investigators gave him a name, not a real one, just a title: the boy in the box. For decades, detectives chased hundreds of leads. One of the most talked about theories came from a woman known only as Martha. In the early 2000s, Martha contacted investigators with a disturbing story. She claimed that when she was a child, her abusive mother had purchased the boy from his biological parents. According to Martha, the child was kept hidden in the house and was abused constantly. She said the boy was once fed baked beans for dinner and later became violently ill. During the chaos, Martha claimed her mother threw the child against the floor, and the boy died. She said the body was later placed inside the box and dumped where it was eventually discovered. At first, investigators were skeptical, but then something strange happened. Some of Martha's details matched physical evidence. She described the type of box used and mentioned baked beans. Investigators had actually found beans in the child's stomach during the autopsy. Still, the story could never be proven. There was no physical evidence tying her family to the crime, and many years had passed. The theory remained exactly that, a theory. For 65 years, the boy remained unidentified. Then in 2022, investigators used a powerful tool that has solved many cold cases in recent years: genetic genealogy. Using preserved DNA from the child, investigators began tracing family connections through distant relatives. Slowly, piece by piece, they built a family tree. Eventually, the truth emerged. The boy finally had a name: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Joseph had been born in 1953. Investigators eventually identified both of his biological parents. But this discovery raised an even bigger mystery. Why had no one ever reported him missing? The answer investigators suspect is tragic. Joseph may have been living outside the normal public system, possibly hidden from neighbors or living with relatives or caregivers who kept him isolated. Which means the person responsible for his death was likely someone very close to him. Today, detectives working the case believe something chilling. Joseph probably did not disappear randomly. He likely lived in an environment where abuse was already happening. Someone in his life lost control. The child died, and instead of reporting it, they panicked. They cut his hair, placed him in a box, and dumped him along a quiet road. Then they simply never spoke about it again. Even though Joseph finally has his identity, solving the murder itself is incredibly difficult. The crime happened in 1957. Most physical evidence has degraded. Important records are incomplete, and many people connected to the case have passed away. Both of Joseph's biological parents are now deceased, which means investigators may never know exactly what happened inside the home where he lived. For decades, America knew him only as the boy in the box, a nameless child abandoned in the woods. But now we know something important. He had a name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, a real child who deserved a childhood and a future. Instead, he became one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. And even today, one question still lingers: who failed him? When police arrived along Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia in February of 1957, they immediately knew something was terribly wrong. As detectives carefully examined the scene, they noticed three strange clues that would puzzle investigators for generations. The first clue was the box itself. The child had been placed inside a cardboard box that originally held a baby bassinet. Detectives traced the packaging to a specific manufacturer and even managed to locate the store that had sold the item. Investigators interviewed customers and tracked down purchase records, hoping to identify who had bought the bassinet. But despite their efforts, they could never determine who purchased it. This raised a disturbing possibility. The box may have come from a home where a baby had recently been born, or it may have simply been lying around in a household where the killer had access to it. Either way, the box was the only container used to dispose of the body, suggesting the killer may have acted quickly and used whatever was nearby. The second clue was a blanket found inside the box. The child's body had been wrapped in a cheap flannel blanket that appeared worn and used, something that likely came from inside a home rather than a store shelf. Investigators studied the fabric carefully and traced the blanket to a brand commonly sold in the Philadelphia area during the 1950s. But the item was so widely available that it provided no direct link to any specific household. Even so, detectives believed the blanket was significant. Someone had taken the time to wrap the boy before placing him in the box. That detail suggested the person responsible might have known him and possibly even cared about him in some way. It was a small detail, but one that made the case even more heartbreaking. The third clue was perhaps the most unsettling. Investigators noticed the child's hair had been freshly cut, but it clearly had not been done by a barber. The cuts were uneven and jagged, as if someone had hastily chopped it off. Police believed someone had trimmed the boy's hair shortly before his death, possibly in an attempt to change his appearance. One theory was that the killer was trying to make the child harder to recognize. If his appearance looked different, it might prevent someone from identifying him in newspapers or missing person reports. But the attempt failed. The boy remained unidentified for more than 6 decades. Despite these clues, the child's identity remained a mystery for generations. Then in 2022, advances in DNA technology finally revealed the truth. The boy had a name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, but even today, the person responsible for his death has never been officially identified. And those 3 eerie clues found at the scene, the box, the blanket, and the freshly cut hair, remain haunting reminders of a crime that may never be fully solved.